I'm super excited because I know this wonderful woman. Her name is Dr. Susan Kahn. She's a business psychologist, a practitioner, and an academic. She's a chartered psychologist and coaching psychologist with the British Psychological Society. She works as a coach, a consultant, a mediator, and an observer of life. But we are here for this book because I think it's so relevant to today. It is called Bounce Back: How to Fail Fast and Be Resilient at Work. I invited you because I've been thinking a lot about post-pandemic, what that's gonna look like. I've been thinking about our people coming to work, some not coming to work, the differences. I'm thinking about, the piece of diversity, how we raise people up in the business. But really, it's that resilience piece. A lot of people will have lost family, loved ones during this whole terrible pandemic. And I thought, I got to have Susan in here to talk about resilience. So can you please just tell us a little bit about this book? And then I just want some insight so we can have a quick conversation about resilience.
Well, thank you, Kay. And I think one of the important things we're doing, even in having this conversation, is just recognizing that our resilience is going to be impacted by all that we've been through over this past year. And the phrase bounce back has been heard so many times. And sometimes the implication in that expression is that it's something quick, it's something that we can fix, it's something that can be done without too much effort. And I think the first thing I'd like everyone to sort of remember is that we don't just switch from being in a traumatic state of loss, challenge, difficulty, working with all the things that we've had to in the workplace since March last year. Indeed, some people won't be having work to distract them. So bouncing back is not something that takes you to exactly the same place that you were before, an opportunity to return so that you can continue your journey wherever it might take you. And I think that's a very important point for us to recognize. We're not going to be the same when we go back to work. It's impossible to have gone through what we have globally with the same experiences as we had before.
As a coach, I'm even having more clients come in, and one of their development areas, as you know, I'm an Ezra coach, and they're choosing development areas, and resilience, it keeps coming up. And I'm wondering if you can give us just some tips, for people in HR, talent, and just individuals, some tips on how we're going to manage that in the workplace.
Well, I think the most reassuring thing that I can say is that resilience is something that can be developed, it can be learnt, and even if you're feeling crushed and low at the moment, it doesn't mean that you're going to stay there. There are things that you can do to develop your resilience, to develop a more compassionate response to yourself, and simple things that you can do that can help you to build a stronger sense of self going forward. And before we talk about what some of those things might be, recognize that we have been in this state of high alert. Our bodies are not used to being in this crisis mode for so long. So we've had cortisol and adrenaline and a sort of a readiness to sort of fight and respond for a very long time. So our bodies are quite fatigued. We're quite stressed. So we have to first acknowledge that and allow ourselves a little bit of time to adjust to this new normal we're in. So that we can begin to build our resilience.
You talk about how it's in the body. I can tell you personally that I'm finding a lot of it's just like in my core. Like there's moments, especially as a coach, when I'm coaching clients that are feeling, a lot of whatever they're feeling, and it's heavy. I feel like I'm just holding on to it, and I find myself saying, okay, just breathe, girl, just breathe.
Yes, it's interesting that you mentioned breath, and sometimes people feel, well, I'm an executive, I'm an important leader, I'm somebody who's dealing with some very challenging strategic issues, global issues. Breathing is something that's for the kind of hippies, it's not for me. But actually giving ourselves an opportunity to connect to our state of mind, simply putting your hand on your heart. one breath, just one breath in and a longer breath out while you keep your hand on your heart, and perhaps think of a place that you felt safe, that you felt supported, that you felt comforted. Just for 30 seconds can ease anxiety and can give us a chance to perhaps when we're returning to work for the first time and we have that sense of expectation and maybe excitement, but also possibly fear. How am I going to deal with, colleagues who have lost loved ones? How am I going to deal with my own fear and anxiety about whether I'm going to get sick?
Yes.
Or expectations about whether I've remembered all the rituals and routines of work. There's so much to sort of make us feel quite pressurized at those first early return moments.
I want to take us back to maybe those tips and tricks. And I'm thinking about my HR people, and I'm thinking about my leadership and talent and development, because obviously as a coach, I'm constantly speaking to these people. What kind of tips can you give them to be able to contain those that will be coming into their office and have dealt with the loss and etc.?
Yes, they of course are sitting in a very sensitive and challenging position, because not only do they have to manage their own sense of where they are, but also to, as you say, contain and nurture those people that are coming to them for help. And I think that the message for them is the same as the message that they would give those who are coming to them for support, which is to, in some ways, take a stoic sense, to think about what do you really need to address, not to worry about the what ifs, not to focus too much on the things that might go wrong, but to stay in the here and now with what needs to be done. What do I need to do in order to help these individuals to get back into the workplace, to begin to build their confidence again, to begin to function? So in some ways, relieving ourselves of that long list of things we might be worrying about. And you can do this, there's lots of methods. You can do it by just spending time writing down everything you're worrying about, everything, and then looking at it impartially and thinking, is this a real worry? Is this an actual fact, or is this actually something that I've created? And then you can start doing a lovely black line through all the things that might be creations of your mind and focus on the things that really need to be done. We have a lot that we can do for ourselves. Many of us in the helping professions and those in HR can, especially perhaps align with this. We're there to serve others, to support others, to help others. And sometimes along the way, we can forget that in order to do that, we have to look after ourselves. But I think also sometimes we're very influenced by what's gone on in our past. We might get stuck in a view of ourselves that's really, long gone, how we were at school, how we were in our early relationships. And sometimes it's worth just refreshing that sense of who we are. We're no longer the kid that wasn't picked for the sports team. We are the person who's occupying an important and responsible job, and to begin to recognize our new selves.
Oh, that's beautiful. You know what it made me think of, what you're just saying? It made me think of, as a mother, right? How we're always taking on everything for everyone else, the partner, the children, the home, and then you compound that with the work responsibilities. And I like that we're taking time, and that person in HR, whatever position you hold, and just an employee as well, is just taking that time to be, I guess, really kind to yourself.
And, the book itself has got over 50 kind of tips about how to build your resilience. So I'm very keen to create a community to share ideas and for us all to begin to learn that resilience isn't something that you have or you haven't, but we can build it and develop it over time.
Once again, everyone, we've had Dr. Susan Kahn, the author of Bounce Back, How to Fail Fast and Be Resilient at Work. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you next time.
Cheers to you, KK, and thank you for inviting me.